How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Anthony Tackett, and today we're going to be talking about push blocks and specifically the Grrripper by MicroJig. So let's get into it. So a few years ago, I had a table saw accident. I've got a video on my channel that talks all about that, but essentially I ended up cutting the top of my hand fairly badly with the table saw blade. Thankfully, no damage was done that was permanent, but it kind of scared me into being safer in the shop, which is a great thing. I'm sad that it had to happen that way, but I'm a lot more careful now than I was then. And one of the steps that I wanted to take in response to that was getting a safer system in place for feeding material through my table saw. And obviously, if you've been around for any length of time watching woodworking videos, you've seen this Grrripper by MicroJig. And this is kind of the end-all be-all for a lot of people for push sticks and push blocks. So I got one. I asked for it for Christmas, and my parents got it for me. And I used it there in the beginning, but I don't really use it very much now. So I figured this would be an informal video where I talk about why I don't use it super often and the different push sticks and push blocks that I use instead. So I'm gonna grab this GoPro and we'll go handheld for a moment, and I'll just kind of talk through the different push sticks that I have, push blocks, whatever you want to call them. And let's just go through it together. All right, so we are handheld now. Okay, so I've had these for a little while. These are little plywood push sticks. This one I just sketched up on my own, cut out really quick on the bandsaw out of plywood. You can see where it's been used, you know, a good bit. It's kind of chewed up. I've painted the handles orange so they don't get lost in the scrap wood pile. And so I got that. And then this version you can see has been used a ton as well. This is a design by John Heiss. Basically, this goes down on your workpiece. You can feed it through the saw. And there's that little clip or that little boot on the back that clips the back end of your piece, and you can kind of push down on the top of the piece with this. And it's a very comfortable position to keep your hand in when you're feeding material through a saw. These are ironically probably my most commonly used push sticks. This came with a Porter cable table saw. Again, I spray painted it orange just for visibility, but this I kind of hold in my hand about like this. It hooks over, much like these wooden designs, it hooks over the back of your material. You kind of feed it through the saw. So I use these two in conjunction with one another. This is a similar version. I like the bright orange, the safety orange. It came from Harbor Freight. And this one is not as comfortable, but it's got a smaller footprint. And what I typically do, like, I'm not going to be able to do this without, let me see if I can set up the GoPro here real quick. All right, we'll go first person. So what I'll often do is I'll put this guy in my right hand and the smaller one in my left hand, stabilize the outside of the piece with the left and push with the right, and use both hands. You can see if that saw blade is down here, it's pretty far away from my hands, and this gives me good control. Another thing I'll do, I'll still use this guy because it's comfortable. I'll just grab a piece of wood and stabilize the outside. I'll use that a lot too, just a random piece laying around. And then this little push block I use on the jointer. And I suppose the MicroJig will be a better option for that since it has a nicer grip on the bottom. But it's not made to just be a push block. And that's what, you know, this is just a push block. But all right, let's get into the main reason why I don't use the MicroJig after getting cut. But this is still a little closer than I want to be to the blade versus, you know, being up and back here. I might have more direct control on the piece with the MicroJig. But I can also, if I'm doing thin cuts, take this guy and I'll grab the GoPro. I'll just cut right through these things because I've got enough scrap laying around where I can make, you know, 50 of these if I wanted to. And then just run this straight through the saw blade and it's not going to be a problem. You know, if it chews it up, I can make another one really fast. Not a big deal. I don't want to chew up this MicroJig. So I think it's a balance between, you know, that absolute control right next to the blade and the setup time. And for me, a lot of times it's not worth it to go through the hassle of setting this up. I posted a video right when I got the Grrripper, you know, a few years ago, and was really excited about it. But here in retrospect, a few years later, it just hangs on my wall. And I always go for these cheaper push sticks, these plastic ones, or this wooden one. And you know, this is maybe about the same distance from the blade, but these guys, all the time. I use these all the time. And I don't know what you guys do. Let me know in the comments below. I've seen Matthias Wandel on YouTube. I think he prefers the 2 push stick method as well. But let me know in the comments, do you have a Grrripper? Do you use the Grrripper? I know some people probably set it up and use it on every single cut, but for me, there's not a whole lot of repetition in what I do, so it just means changing and reconfiguring the tool constantly, and that just slows me down. But let me know in the comments, what do you use for safety in your shop? That's about it. I'm rambling at this point, just down here, and I had that thought and wanted to share it with you guys. Anyway, if this is your first time to my channel and you're interested in woodworking, DIY, even do some 3D printing related content, let me know. Hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to stay up to date. And as always, take care guys, and we'll see you next time.